hello, and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. And again, as always, thanks so much for being here today. I always hope that you enjoy the show. Well, we're going to highlight a guest that's been here last year, and we're going to highlight the League of Professional Theater Women and Lauren Yarger, the co-founder of the League of Professional Theater Women. The Connecticut chapter is my guest today, as well as a playwright producer for GracewellProductions.com. And Lauren, thank you so much for being here today. So nice to have you.
Thank you for having me, Deborah.
Well, it's so great to have you come back, and it's so nice to update the viewers as to what's going on with the chapter. So again, thank you from all of us for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We've had a lot going on with the Connecticut chapter, even in the last year, which has still been kind of tied up with the COVID issues. A lot of people are just now, it's spring and we're just coming into a season where I think people are starting to reopen, and we're hoping that things are going to sort of head toward back to a normal way of doing things, if that's even a term anymore. But the chapter has been active all through the pandemic, and it has really been a wonderful time of sort of being there to support our members and to help them get through the pandemic, and in some cases to actually get some things accomplished and up and running and on stage. So it's been kind of a long haul, but it's been a good time of coming together, and we keep seeing more members join, and we seem to be meeting a need for a lot of members. We just recently had a networking lunch to celebrate National Women's Day, Women's Month, Women's History Month, which was in March. And it was a really wonderful time. We had, there was the final of a reading series that I produced at the Palace Theater in Waterbury. There were 3 different events that were held, and this was the last one. And it was called Reflecting on the Voices of African American Women. And it featured 4 one-acts by 2 playwrights with 2 actresses, bringing these 4 women to life on stage. And the chapter came and had a lunch beforehand and was able to meet with the playwrights and the actors and network with each other. And it was really a wonderful time. It was a great series at the Palace. We're quite excited about having accomplished that again during the pandemic. It was very difficult. Usually a reading series like this, it has its ups and downs about whether it's an easy thing to do, but it should be a lot easier than it was. It was definitely riddled with, it stopped and started at least 3 times before we got the series started, and each one of the individual presentations had its own issues and stopped and started. It just seems like you can't quite plan as far ahead as you'd like anymore in theater, and you make some decisions and you decide you're going to do something, and then something happens, and often related to the pandemic, and we weren't able to do what we thought we were going to do, and we'd have to go back and start again. So it was kind of a difficult process, but we did get 2 full plays up for the first 2 readings. They were wonderful. The first one featured a Connecticut chapter member, playwright, Kate Catcher. Her play, The Little Sisters of Littleton, was the first play, and it was very fun, kind of comedy, lighter fare about 2 sisters and the former husband of the one sister who are all entangled romantically, and it was just really quite fun. And we had wonderful actresses. We had Dorothy Lyman and Sachi Parker as the 2 sisters, and Don Striano as the guy in between them. And it was really well received, and I think audiences really appreciated the ability to be able to see live theater again. This was back in September, so really not much had been happening on stages at that point, and we managed to it was in October, and we managed to slip that in. And then the second one was in December, about mid-December, and that was written by Kimberly Hill, another comedy sort of in the vein of the old screwball comedy movies about Christmas. It was called Joy Meets Girl, We had an ensemble cast do that, directed by Susan Cinnamon, another chapter member of the Connecticut chapter. She's a writer for TV's The Goldbergs and a playwright herself. And we had a wonderful time putting that on right before the variant took over. And pretty much everything closed down again. And we had all of the closings on Broadway, and it kind of was a hard period again through into January. So this last one was the last weekend in March, and we had these two wonderful actresses came up from New York to do these roles, and the playwrights came, and again, it was just the thrill of being in live theater, and people are just, usually readings are more reserved, and people politely sit and listen, and then sometimes there's feedback at the end and you have a chance to express your opinion or to ask questions, but it's a little more reserved. You're watching a reading. It's not a performance. It's not a full production. But these readings, the audiences were very engaged, and they really almost were sitting on the edge of their seat, enjoying the performance, which really wasn't a performance. It was just so well done by these actors. And I guess there's just the excitement of being in the room with live people on stage again. It was quite an exciting experience. And in this last one, we just really all bonded. The people who were involved in it really bonded in friendship beyond just being there and doing a theater gig together and enjoying that. We just really hit it off, and everybody just really became friends. And I think you'll see us working with each other again. Just so a lot of good came out of that series. So that was quite a nice event for us. And coming up, we have we're planning ahead. Again, a little hard to know exactly what you can plan very far in the future. But we do have a lot of chapter members who are doing things. And so we're trying to get out to their events and support them. We have two women who are in the chapter who are producing shows on Broadway. There are some things on right now that they're producing, and they have some other things in the works that are coming up. So that's quite exciting. And we have several playwrights who are involved with, there's a benefit program being done coming up at the Legacy Theater to benefit victims of the Ukraine war. And so they're involved with that. And there are others that are involved with Honor Roll, which is another group that supports women playwrights 40 and over. And so they're having some of their works presented and in books that are being published. And so wherever we can support our members, we try to do that and get out to their events or publicize that their events are coming up. It's very exciting. The Broadway season is coming into its usual very busy time, and I think it will be busy this year for the first time in a couple of years. We have a lot of shows opening in April, and it's exciting to see that happening. Now, Broadway, if you're not familiar with going there right now, is still keeping in place all of the COVID protocols that have been in place during the pandemic. So to go to a Broadway show, you need to be vaccinated, you need to have a mask on through the show. And a lot of other places, including Connecticut theaters, are lessening those restraints now. So if you're going to the theater, check with the theater to see what their protocols are, because it's very up and down right now as to what they are. But if you're going into New York, it's still full COVID procedures in place, at least until the end of this season. So I went to see The Music Man, and that was the first big show I'd been back to since the pandemic. Well, I went to a couple during the pandemic, but the first really big musical that I'd been back to. And it was really wonderful. It was fun to see. I mean, Hugh Jackman is in it, and Sutton Foster, and what more can you want, right? Two great musical talents on stage with a lot of other supporting characters who are great names, big names in Broadway as well. But the most fun of that performance for me was being back in the audience and hearing the audience just enjoy the theater. There's the roar of the crowd when the theater went up, and Hugh Jackman comes out and there's huge applause, and Sutton Foster comes out, there's huge applause, and just about anything that happened was delightful and the audience loved it. And in fact, the gentleman who was sitting next to me was just completely delighted with everything, just every joke. He loved it. And that's really, that's the fun part of theater. That's a lot of why we do theater, is because, it gives you that pleasure and emotional release. And especially during a hard time like this that we've been through, it's been really wonderful to be able to come back. So whether it's, on Connecticut stages or in New York, things are starting to come back together. So that's great. We're planning now the Outer Critics Circle Awards, which I'm involved in New York. We will be having a ceremony this year. Again, haven't had one for the last, very limited online last year. The year before, nothing really was happening. So it's encouraging, again, kind of creeping forward with maybe not the full ceremony, the full dinner, awards gala kind of thing that we normally do, but something that will recognize the talent that's been on stage this year. And, it's almost a full season this year. I mean, as long as we get through the rest of the season and the shows open that are supposed to open. So it's kind of exciting. And we see a lot of the Connecticut theaters are announcing their new seasons. A lot of them have started some of the seasons and have had some things on stage, but it has been pretty quiet over the last couple of years. So it's quite exciting to see that all to come together.
Okay, well, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting.
And even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together,
we should still make an effort.
To get to know each other
on a deeper level.
Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor.
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together
and discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. And again, as always, thanks so much for being here. Lauren, one of the things I like to do is always introduce my guests to the viewer. So why don't you tell us about yourself? Take us back into your background.
Well, it's kind of varied. I started in journalism and was a newspaper editor and writer for many years, and then did some desktop publishing after that, and had always been involved and always loved the theater, but hadn't really done anything with that for a while. And then I got re-involved and started writing and directing and producing for theater. And when we moved to Connecticut about 20 years ago, that was right when the internet was really taking off. And as far as the journalism, that had really changed. The face of journalism had changed forever by that time. And I really didn't want to do retraining and reinvestment to continue with the desktop publishing. And I really, really wanted to just devote myself to theater full time. So when we moved here, I made that transition. And I worked for a period for the Bushnell in Hartford and for the Hartford Symphony Orchestra. And then I headed up, I was the executive director of a performing arts company for a number of years. And that sort of ended up with my developing an interest in doing reviewing. And it was interesting because I had never done that before. And people kept asking me, why are you not reviewing plays? It seems a natural thing for you to do. And I really wasn't sure I knew how, because when you write about a play, it's your opinion, and in journalism, at least the journalism I was trained in, you don't have an opinion. You're telling facts, you're telling what happened, but you stay out of it personally. And I didn't know how to make that transition to really put my opinion into a piece. And so I had an opportunity to go to the O'Neill Theater Center. They have a National Critics Institute there. And it's sort of like a boot camp for reviewers. And I went there and just fell in love and really got the training that I needed and the support. And I came out of there knowing that's what I wanted to do.
Okay, we're going to take a break. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and we had a technical issue, so we're back with Lauren Yarger. And Lauren, you were talking about the Eugene O'Neill Theater and the critics' capability that you had there. Why don't you continue on with that?
Yeah, I have to say that was the best thing I've ever done for professional development. It was an excellent program. The people there were terrific. They brought in critics from all over. It was like a boot camp for critics, and you really fine-tuned your skills. And I came out of there knowing that that's what I needed to do. So I spent the next, decade and a half reviewing, and I reviewed all of the professional theater in Connecticut and in New York, for Broadway and off Broadway. And I was a member of the Drama Desk and the Outer Critics Circle and a number of other critics groups. And it was quite an experience. But about, I say a year before the pandemic, I really felt a calling back to the producing end of things. It's sort of, it's very different. You can't do both really successfully at the same time. So I kind of felt like I had done all the covering that I wanted to do, but now I wanted to get back into actually producing and making theater. So I made that transition right before the pandemic hit. And so it's been a little slow going, getting things up during that pandemic, as I said, but I think that's probably where I'm going to find some real exciting things to do. And I have several projects in the works and waiting for the right timing and looking at some others. So it's an exciting time, definitely.
I think one of the things the viewers is interested in is the Connecticut chapter of the League of Professional Theater Women. What is it all about, and how does somebody get involved with it?
Well, the chapter it's a chapter of the League of Professional Theater Women, which is a national organization based in New York. And it's basically what it says, professional women who are involved in theater. It can be any discipline in theater. We have everyone from playwrights to box office managers to directors to actors, all of it. And it's wonderful because in Connecticut we have so many women who are involved in theater. We have so many theaters in Connecticut. We have about 11 or 12. I have lost track of. Professional theaters that have, equity contracts that are Lord theaters, that kind of thing, like the big time professional theaters in Connecticut. And then there are a lot of other theaters that are professional theaters as well. So there are many, many women in Connecticut, and Connecticut is so big that you really don't have an idea of who anybody is outside of your interest, area where you are and what you're doing. So the chapter sort of opens up the state to you to let you know what other people are doing, to let you network and get to know other women. And we've seen a lot of women meet and create new friendships, new working relationships, go on to create new theater together. And that's kind of what it's all about. It's a place, it's sort of a hub for you to come together and know who everybody else is in the state and what they're doing. So I forget how many members we have, actual members of the chapter, but it's quite a lot. And then we have a newsletter that goes out monthly that has news of members, chapter members, what they're doing, things that are happening around the state, opportunities, job opportunities, things like that. So it keeps everybody very networked in the theater world.
Now, you were involved in the New York chapter, and you're the co-founder, one of, I believe, 3 or 4 that started the Connecticut chapter. What made you decide to get involved at that level to bring it to Connecticut?
Well, it just seemed like there were so many women that I was meeting in Connecticut that, it seemed like we could form a chapter pretty easily. And so I just said, let's see what we can do. And we had a lunch meeting in Hartford, and we had another one in Westport, because, Connecticut is, people from Fairfield County don't drive to Hartford County and vice versa, very often for much. So we felt like we could at least hit those two areas and attract people from different parts of the state. And we had quite a lot of people turn out for those meetings, and that were very interested in getting together and joining a chapter. So at the time, there were 3 other women besides myself who were already members of the league in New York who lived in Connecticut. And so the 4 of us became the co-founders and caused this chapter to be formed. And 1 has since moved on. So there are 3 of us now who are co-founders. And then we have a steering committee that we've added in the last couple of years. And we have 4 other women who are on that committee who are dynamite women involved in amazing things in theater in Connecticut. And so we get together and sort of decide, what kind of events are coming up. We have suggestions from our members, and we try to figure out, is that something we can do or something we can support? So it's wonderful. It's really one of the better experiences I've had in terms of working with a committee of people to do something, because everybody is really amazingly talented on their own. And then we all come to the table, and everybody has ideas, and they're all coming from different places. And it's just very exciting and really fun to be part of.
The website, I know the viewer will want to be able to visit it. What will they find when they do?
We have a website that kind of gives a summary of some of the things going on. We don't really have a huge active website, because the chapter is for members. So if you really are interested in knowing about what's coming up and going on with the chapter, the best way is to get the newsletter that comes out every month. To sign up for that, there's a place on the website where you can put your email in, and then you get the newsletter every month that will keep you up to date on what's happening. And then also, if you're interested in becoming a member, there are 2 levels of membership for the League of Professional Theater Women. One is an associate membership, which is people who are about 3 years of experience. And so they're an associate level. And then the next one would be the full membership, which is about 5 years. So it depends where you are in your career as to what level you might be interested in. You might not be ready yet at all. You might just want the newsletter, and you can attend a lot of events, even if you're not a member, just to come meet people and find out more and make those connections. So you can get those 3 years of experience and become a member. So it's a great organization.
I get your newsletter, so I get to see and hear what some of your members are doing. Do they submit themselves to you or to the founders of what they're doing to be able to be put in the newsletter so that other people know what's happening?
Yes, we hope they do. Not all of them remember to do that, so sometimes we find out that they're doing something and we'll include it. We'll see a posting on Facebook, for instance, or something, and make sure we include that in the newsletter. But most of them will send us a little note or a press release or something, or a picture from their event, so that we can include it and let the other members know. That's just one of the great things we have with the chapter is people wanting to know what the other members are doing and letting them know about opportunities. So sometimes it's, there's an opportunity, a festival coming up where you can submit a play, and they'll tell us about that, and then our members will know and they can submit their work. So it's a great mechanism and tool for us.
Are there other chapters throughout the United States besides the Connecticut chapter in New York City? I mean, you said it's a national organization?
It is. We're the first official chapter. There are some other areas where they do have groups of women, and they're, I think, thinking about becoming a chapter, but no one has done that yet. So we're unique here in Connecticut.
Well, we are starting to run out of time. Is there any kind of closing thoughts that you would like to leave with the viewer about the chapter or about what's coming up in the future?
Well, I mean, definitely come join us at our events. You know, we're planning an event now for the fall that would be open to everyone, you know, where we're going to talk with some women playwrights who've been featured in analogies of plays and monologues, and talking about this group is particularly interested in women over 40 and the challenges of making sure that women over 40 are, you know, seen on stage and given chances behind stage and that kind of thing. It's a very timely topic, and you certainly can come and participate in that with us. And go to theater, you know, support your local theater. It's been a very hard time. So if they've got something that's coming up, if they've got a series, if they've got a show, if they've got a festival, New Works Play Festival, something like that, go, you know, show your support and be the audience, because they are desperately needing the audience to show up now after the pandemic. So that's how you can best support us and everybody in theater.
Well, Lauren, thank you so very much for being here as my guest. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Deborah. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
And to all of my viewers, in case you want to be a volunteer on the program, or if you think you might be a great guest, I would love to hear from you. You can contact me at artsandentertainment@mail.com. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Have a super day today. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you next time.